on and make a head pop.
Well, good evening, everyone. Somebody give me a thumbs up or something to make sure you can hear me clearly, or if there's any issues going on. I try not to wear the headsets to be a distraction because there's a slight delay when I use the headsets, and I guess it throws off my brain. So I have to rely upon you guys to let me know how it sounds and make sure everything's working correctly. So, yeah. Yeah. First, I want to welcome everybody who is here already and those who may be on their way. I appreciate it. East Coast, I think, was the first in. Then we had Daryl come in, and I think CT Pirate spit in the chat. Uh, Warren's here. I guess he didn't. I guess the dog took a quick poop, and I guess he did too, and everything. But I appreciate you guys that are here, and like I said, those that may be on their way. I appreciate everyone in the community, and what may be left of our community. I'll put that out there right from the start. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things today, since it's been a month. Today's the 29th of June, 2025. And a lot has transpired over the last month. And I think we've had the sky is falling moment, I should say, starting off with the fact that so many people, when it was announced that the president was going to do executive orders, so many people put out videos trying to be ahead of the game, stating that the president was going to ban drones. And there was a bunch of people out there with those videos. I don't even need to drop any's name on this one, but you guys seen them out there just as much as I did. People talking about, oh, the sky is falling. Drones are going to be banned. DJI is going to be banned by executive order. Well, that was not the case. And what did transpire, what is about as clear as mud. Some people tried to spin it as the executive order from the president to, I guess, accelerate the DJI investigation, but that was never made out clearly in the executive order of who was supposed to take on a responsibility. Hey, Justin, Mr. Baker, appreciate you guys. Mr. Lee, appreciate you guys coming in. So what actually happened with those executive orders was basically a big nothing burger. Nothing changed, nothing accelerated, nothing laid down in stone for the most part. The current situation as we speak today, DJI has pretty much, I want to say they called the U.S.'s bluff, but they're the ones who have basically shut the door now on the U.S. market. You know, our elected officials did their part through tariffs and shipping, which was really the nail in the coffin when a lot of people were not getting their items that they paid good money for in a timely fashion. It doesn't make any sense for you have to wait anywhere up to several weeks to a couple months for an item that you paid for with your good hard-earned money, and there's no reason for it not to be delivered in a timely fashion. Or worst case, people were getting emails from delivery companies saying they need to cough up a little more money. Hey, Jody, Drone Shots, glad you're here. So it's been quite a bit what we call a quagmire. There has not been consistency, like I said earlier, about this customs action. Some states were getting things roughly, a few days late, maybe a week late, where other places were seeing their stuff getting returned. It happened to me with my DJI Power Bank 2000. I ordered that thing last November. DJI told me initially they were not planning on shipping them out until January. When they finally shipped it out in January, It arrived in California. I think it was the San Francisco port. It was returned to DGI, back to China. After a couple of phone calls from me to DGI, uh, stating, like I said, was again, this is my money. My money's good. I already paid for this item. You need to deliver. So about about a week later, I got a delivery from DHL, uh, delivering my Power Bank 2000. So it was somewhere around late February that I finally got it after all the back and forth. But there's a lot of people with drone orders, uh, primarily who have never got their drones or got it months late, which is very frustrating. We pay good money for this stuff, and like anything else, uh, when you pass out that money, you want something to hold on to in return. So that's been the part that our government has played. Now DGI is playing its part by simply stating on their, as some folks call the mothership website, of saying that if you log in from a U.S. based internet server, you're going to see everything out of stock, which is like a polite way of saying screw you, because like I said, we've had people come on from Canada and other places around the world where they're saying everything's good and dandy, everything's in stock, ready to go, ready to ship. It's just if you log in from a U.S. server, it'll stay it's out of stock, instead of saying they're not selling to the U.S. any longer. So the ball is, up in the air. We don't know where it's going to fall down at. And like I say, like we always say, when there's conflict, we hope cooler heads prevail on that. So on that note, we're going to go to a quick break, a little air data announcement, and then we'll be continuing on.
When your flight data matters.
All right. So, like again, you guys know I'm a big advocate of air data. Especially if you use your drones professionally, and if you don't, I think it is just a good safety protocol to have, just in case you have unusual events occur, flyaways, temporary loss of signal, whatever the case may be. It may be your saving grace overall. Hey, how you doing, Jonathan? Before I go any further, I want to give everybody notice. Pretty much the folks I see in here now are aware of Captain Joe America's situation. He is in a hospital down in Louisiana, about to go into surgery tomorrow morning, I believe it is, on his leg from a fall that he happened to have while he was out doing his work. So we all want to wish him the best, come out of surgery in a speedy recovery for Captain Joe America. As we continue on, right now, I'm just refreshing you guys. This is all what's just happened in the last 30 days. And I see people in here who have gone through those hoops, jumped through those hoops, and finally got their drones one way or another. I hear it all the time, even from the larger channels where guys are talking about, well, maybe I'll go to Canada or talk to somebody in Canada to buy my drone, ship it across, excuse me, or order from Korea or Mexico or wherever else and have it shipped to me. I said, well, God bless you. Because I hear bits and pieces that Canada's not even shipping stuff through the U.S. So a lot of this political back and forth, where all this has started, is now affecting us users on a daily basis. And that's why I've always told folks, got to pay attention what's going on, federally, locally, statewide, whatever the case may be, of what is going on, because sooner or later it will affect you. And I always say, by the time it gets to that point, it's pretty much too late. It's already been in place. It's not going to change until the next major election changes. So you got to ride this out for the next 3 years and change. And like I always tell people, I said, it's not always about the individual who sits in the White House. A lot of time, this is from people who work for him, who pretty much take upon what they think his wishes are, and they don't really be concerned where the fallout may be. And that's how the everyday person gets hurt, because we're part of that collateral damage that was never taken in consideration of how this was gonna play out. You know, I get the long game here about trade deficits and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But like I always tell people, a lot of times it's basically in the method of how we achieve the ultimate goal. And I'll leave it there. Now, my next part I'm going to cover this evening is going to be about what we still have. Okay? What we still have are the drones we have in our hands. Our airspace has not radically changed or been shut down as far as our airspace is concerned. The drones that we already have in our inventory has not changed. As far as we still able to use them. If you guys hear the whimpering, it's my daughter's new puppy whimpering in the background, wants to be picked up. So my apologies. So as a lot of people said, fly what you got. You know, for us commercial operators, we know that already. A lot of us already been flying what we got because that's what the job requires. Many of us know that the industry is not making a shift towards the new drones. I haven't heard anybody speak of where they had to have a Mavic 4 Pro to do a job. You can go back like I do. I still fly Mavic 2 Pros. And pretty much that's the baseline for photographs, is what the standards are off of a Mavic 2 Pro. And if you go back further, you can sneak in a Phantom. Okay? But that's pretty much where we're still at as far as a commercial operation. Is that if you go on some of these websites and you look at what they require you to have to do the job, you'll see it there in plain English. They'll tell you 20 megapixel camera, 1-inch sensor. That's all, because you can fly the Autel, you can fly DJI that meet those specifications. And I hear you, Daryl. Don't crash. And like those of us in the commercial industry, we know that's why we have multiple drones that can back each other up if necessary. So that's always the issue about, crashing drones and everything else, is that's going to be the real pain. But as far as commercial operations, what we have is still viable. We can still do work unless something else comes down the pipeline, which I have not seen yet. I have not sorted out the tea leaves to justify where we're going to be going or what is already coming down the pipe. It's just that, like I said, what we have can do the job of what you need to get done. It's nice to have the new toy, all this kind of stuff, and do all the little gimmicky things and everything else. And I know there are certain people out here who just enjoy the hobby, and that's what they do it for, to get the new toys. And like I said, I have several hobbies. Like I say, I'm a home theater buff. I play golf. Like I say, so you talk about electronics, just like with drones, hi-fi stuff is a money pit, just like drones is a money pit, just like buying the latest golf equipment is a money pit, and everything else. It's a hobby, and you have to learn to be disciplined within yourself to say, do I really need it? Is my current amplifier going out, died, or whatever? Then you have a need. But just to have something new, whatever, hey, how you doing, Green Mountain? Glad you're here. So that's what you got to ask yourself, is just that, is it really a need or just a desire? And for the most part. There you go, Daryl. Like I say, Daryl's, if you guys who don't know W Drones, Daryl works for a company that does a lot of commercial work as far as landfill uh, uh, observation, gas observation, and regular photogrammetry work. Daryl has had the privilege of being able to use some of the big birds, 300s, 350s, and I think he's already got his hands on a 400 out there. So he usually gets to play with some of the newer stuff because he's got a company with deep pockets that supplies him with this equipment. So like he said earlier in his statement in the chat, crashing is the biggest problem that all of us who are commercial operators face, is us trying to send our drones in to get repaired or be able to order more parts, because that's what's going to be the real pinch, even for the older drones, is how scarce it's going to be to get more batteries, more props, things of that nature, where we may have to look upon where we might have to reach out at. And it's going to be a bigger thing if some of the places that we go are no longer carrying what we need. If you can't find it on Amazon, you can't find it in a Best Buy or Walmart. And like for a lot of us, we use B&H, Autorama, and some other places. And like I tell you guys, you think you may be hurting? Think about the guys that the I call them the mom and pops, the drone works, people like that, drone nerds, and a bunch of other companies, small companies that strictly only deal in drones. They are really taking a hit. Even if they sell other brands, no other brand is competing with DJI head to head. Most of the brands have ran for cover and only making or selling enterprise level drones. We know what Skydio did a couple years ago. Autel hasn't put out a consumer drone in over 3 years. Parrot hasn't put out a consumer drone in probably over 4 years. Okay? So there is no one to fill the void on the prosumer or actual consumer level. There is no one filling that void, period. So like I said, as a commercial operator, we look at the fact, okay, there might be a few alternatives out there for us, but then you talk about now we have to go through a different learning curve and and climb that ladder and look at what our supply chain is going to be. Autel makes, good enterprise level drones. Parrot does okay. I mean, they're capable of getting most of the work done. But I think I heard somebody today talk about multispectral work, which is basically farm analysis, crop analysis. Nobody else was making that but DJI. I have one because of the fact that the Mavic 3E was out of stock when I wanted to purchase that, and they had the DJI 3 multispectrum, but the main camera was the same camera on both the 3E and the 3M. So I bought the 3M, even though I have never done any agricultural work, don't plan on it, because here in California, in Southern California, I just say there is no large agricultural centers. I would have to drive about 2.5, 3 hours away up to Bakersfield area and beyond Central Valley, California, to be in agriculture work. And maybe one day down the road, I may just do that once I retire from my current 9 to 5. That way I can be gone a couple of days during the week, do that work, and drive home. I'd be a road warrior like Daryl is. Daryl travels from state to state doing work. So, and like I said, this affects not just camera people and commercial operators. And it's like I see Hot Rod, how you doing, partner, chiming in. I said, this is even affecting the FPV community. And I tried to signal them months back about this. And they all gapped it off, kind of say, oh, we'll just do what we do, and now they realize you're stuck. You're stuck just like the rest of us. We're all stuck. Okay? Because of what is happening and what has happened and what's been politicized. And that's the problem. No one, I say with a few folks who were here in the United States doing stuff, got bought out by somebody else, and, they're supplying a war effort with parts and stuff. So a lot of folks are upset with that. And like I say, and everybody else was switching over to DJI internal parts. So now you got a limited supply on that coming towards you. So, it is what it is. And like I said, for hobbyists, recreational flyers, some of these smaller drones may survive. Like I see East Coast talking about Holy Stone. I heard somebody else a couple of days ago talk about EXOs and things of that nature. I said that may satisfy the hobbyists on what the capabilities of those drones can do, but they don't cut the mustard for commercial operations. DJI has brought this industry to such a high level of capabilities. There is really no one that can supplant them unless you have deep pockets. Now, like I said, there are drones out there. Just like for what I do, mapping and photogrammetry work, yeah, I can go out there and spend another 30 grand on a Wingdra system, But like I say, I have capable drones sitting right here that I paid a third of that cost and get the job done. Let me go out there and have to learn how to work a Wingdra system or some of the other new ones that have come out of the woodwork. But most all of them are starting off at 20 grand and above. So that's where the problem comes in. Either you have to have a major investment or get some investors. Hey, good evening, Jim and Steven Drones. Glad you made it. Get some investors if you're, like I say, you're a commercial operator like myself who's going to invest in your company and basically invest in you to back you to make this transition from DJI products to wherever you're going to go. And like I say, 9 times out of 10, when you buy drones from some of these other high-end enterprise people, you're buying a one-trick pony. You're not going to get a drone that's going to be capable of doing maybe 2 to 3 different things. You're going to get one that only does one thing, and that's it. So that's the biggest thing there. So that's kind of like the problem you may run into down the road and stuff. See what time we have. We're almost at the half an hour part, so we're going to take a quick break here and have a little information on Pilot Institute.
Best. You have to train with the best. Pilot Institute.
All right. Now, if you guys have not heard me, Pilot Institute, I buddied up with them based upon a meeting I had with their people at the Vegas meetup. And they came on board around February this year, being a sponsor of my show and so forth. I believe in those gentlemen and what they're trying to achieve. They are a big advocate for the drone community, whether you are commercial or hobbyist. They are one of the main, I know, companies and organizations that are putting their, other words, putting their money where their mouth is at. And I appreciate that. All right, is that Cool Cat with another name? I see the logo there. Where many? Okay. But that's why I wanted to partner with them because, like I said, I like people who stand up on standards and not just bend with the wind. You know, it's easy to bend with the wind. When you, like I said, we say when you're standing on 10 toes, that means you're standing on principles, and that's what I try to do in my life, and I appreciate that when I see others. When I say DGI, I mean, Pilot Institute has been a big supporter of the community, whether you've been commercial or uh, recreational. Now, this last part of my show tonight, I'm going to talk about mainly commercial operators. And for the amount of time, I've been in this for 7 years, going on 8 years here almost. And maybe because of my background, being military, law enforcement, things of that nature, I have that mindset that you have to, as we used to call it, study up, okay? And which makes you more qualified for the next position, for the next title. And in the drone business, it's basically for more money. And I hear guys all the time, what do I need to blah, 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 get clients, all this kind of stuff. And I always have to remind people, the drone itself is just a tool. No different than a wrench for a mechanic, a hammer for a carpenter, and a trowel for a concrete finisher. Okay, it's just a tool. You yourself is the real investment. That's where you need to invest whatever money you may have to want to build a company or be a contractor or wherever the case may be. You need to invest in yourself more than anything else. And what I'm going to bring up here next is just some of the things I have done over the years and some just recently. And let me go back to, I can thank Daryl for this one. This is my certificate of my Category 1 infrared. And I have to thank Daryl for this. I mean, I wanted to do it. Daryl gave me a link and hooked me up with some people. So, like I said, when I go out and do solar work, the drone is the tool. The drone allows me to get the work done. This certificate right here that you see is what really shows my qualifications. And that's what people look for. It's even what you look for. When somebody comes to do work at your house, or you go to whatever you go to get work done, you want to know what's the qualifications. What's your qualifications? How many times have you done this? How long have you been doing this? Where's your diploma on the wall? All that kind of good stuff. And a lot of companies want you to be able to be verified. So this is what I'm talking about, investing in yourself. Another one here, FEMA. With all the natural disasters that we are facing in our country today, no matter where you live, New England, Southeast, across the Southwest, Midwest, central of the country, the great Northwest here in California, we are all prone to natural disasters. Flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquake, wildfires. It is affecting everywhere across this country, one or the other. And I always tell people, everybody says, well, I want to go out there and fly my drone to help save people. Well, what are your qualifications for doing that? Because you got to remember, the drone is just a tool. But your knowledge of emergency management doing a crisis is what people are going to want to know. What's your training? This is just one certificate I have for FEMA. I have about 4 of them. And these are free classes that you can get. Free classes online at the FEMA website. Put in most of the classes are about an hour and a half worth of study time, and you take the test online, you pass the test, boom, get a certificate. It don't cost you nothing. But these are the type of things that you can present to people to say, hey, I'm here to work with you guys. It might be your local authorities or whatever. And they say, hey, what's your qualification? I said, well, I've taken several FEMA classes on Incident Command System, ICS, and yada, yada, this and that. And they say, okay, so you at least have a grasp on how the structure is set up, how we're going to be operating. Like I said, the drone is just a tool. Your knowledge on how to work within the organization is a lot more important than the drone flying in the air. Now look at these right here. This one right here, just did this one the other day. Drone powered hotspot detection after wildfires. Class was given by Los Angeles Fire Department, DJI, and I forgot who Nova is. June 26th. That was his last week. Okay? DJI Enterprise level. I took another course from them right here. Elevating Utility Operations, a deep dive into SDG&E UAS program and DJI drone applications in the field. It's not so much that my drone can do whatever it is. I need to know how to use the drone. Like I said, I need to know how to use the wrench, know how to use the trowel, know how to use the screwdriver. Okay? Just because you have one doesn't mean you automatically know how to use it. And that's why I talk about investing in yourself, gain knowledge on the field that you want to go into. My background field is in construction. Okay. So all these things, construction and being a safety officer for a city of 250,000 people, I need to be knowledgeable in case of a natural disaster. I need to know when the county steps in. We all have just about every city has identical natural disaster operations center, emergency operations center. Okay. And I say there's supposed to be a partnership between utility companies, county or city employees, whatever, and also nonprofit groups and also citizens are all supposed to be a part of this natural disaster operations center. So like myself, I work for a city. I am part of the emergency operation team for my city. But like I say, I'll be retiring in 2 years. So then I would move from an employee standpoint to just a regular citizen who has knowledge and experience working in these type of environments. So I'll still have drones, hopefully, and I'll be able to lend my expertise to help out my fellow citizens. I just like the last one we had last year. They talked about a guy who was a farmer in North Carolina somewhere, and he brought out his agricultural drones, and they flew them out there to help people, find people, all that kind of good stuff. Well, those are great stories, and we don't know all the particulars. Was he with somebody? Was he with a FEMA person or operating this or that or whatever? But he needed to be part of the natural disaster effort. Okay, that's what's key, because you'll also have low-flying helicopters out there, other drone operators out there that are working directly for FEMA and everything else. If you go back even further, we saw drone activity when the bridge collapsed in Baltimore over a year ago. I was in Virginia when that happened on vacation. And I remember waking up, middle of the night, the news. Hey, how we doing, V-Dub? And, hearing about that bridge collapsing. And it was, like I say, the next day, there were drones out there being flown by emergency operations and a couple other people who weren't part of the operations, and being able to assist with evaluation of damage and all this kind of stuff. Because the big thing you're going to do is, like the certificate I showed you from FEMA, you work part of the GIS, which is GIS is basically mapping. That's what GIS is. There's a geological information system. Okay. It is basically mapping. your city maps are not going to be sufficient. And that's where drones come in. Because drones will give you real time information on what roads are still viable, what waterways maybe overrun the banks or whatever. You can identify that with a drone, take pictures, provide real time data to your emergency operations center so they will know where to stage and where to direct other resources to help out the community. So that's what I say, the knowledge you can gain by getting more training, taking these courses, is what's more important than just the drone itself flying around the air. So that's what the key factor is overall, is that you have the knowledge that makes your work more valuable and stuff. Next one I'm going to talk about, anybody who does construction work, work with construction companies, need to get one of these. Now, I have an OSHA 30 card. That's a supervisor level, but at least get the OSHA 10. Okay? Get the OSHA 10 card, at least. More regulation are coming down on construction sites and developments that are requiring all employees to have at least a OSHA 10 level certification to even be working on a job site. So that may be something you may encounter, depending on how big the operation is. A lot of small time, people skirt around it. But if you really work on projects that are going to be multi years, like I've done for a couple of projects, these are the kind of things you may be asked to present before you can start work for these people. Okay, is have that kind of certification in your thing. The next one I just recertified. This is my certified inspector card right here. This card here makes me a certified inspector of sediment and erosion control, which basically means anytime they break ground over an acre or more, somebody like me is going to be on that site, watching and monitoring how they move that dirt around. Okay, my card is good in all 50 states and about a dozen plus small islands in the South Pacific. So that's what I'm talking about when people talk about wanting to make money and how you make money and how you get the big jobs. A lot of guys cry about, well, I ain't gonna do no small jobs. I said, dude, those small jobs add up. You get multiple small jobs that go month to month to month. And when I'm talking about month to month, let's say you get a job for $100, but the job lasts you 12 months. That's $1,200. That's $1,200 you didn't have before you started the job. Like I say, most of these jobs, small ones like that, it might take you no more than about 20 minutes tops. One battery to fly a job of that size for that kind of money. Okay? And you get multiple jobs. Because what most of these companies do, they'll give you a little bit of a job to see how you do. If you do good work, then they'll give you more work. Okay? It's like anything you would do. If you give somebody a shot opportunity, you're not going to give them the big project. You're going to give them something small, something they should be able to handle. If they handle it well, do a good job, then you start throwing more work their way because they've proven themselves. It just amazes me when people think, oh, I'm going to get out here and I'm going to make $500 a day on one job. I'm like, well, that's nice. What else you got to back it up? Like I said, I didn't do anything smaller than $100 when I first started. My standard rate at bare minimum, and there's some caveats to it, is $150. That's one battery. If you got a job, one battery, $150. Now, my caveat to that is it's got to be within an hour drive distance. Now, I tell people, I live in Southern California. I don't go into LA County, and I rarely, unless it's something very interesting, do I go into Orange County. I do most of my work in San Bernardino and Riverside County. And I don't go up in the mountains, and I try to avoid going out to the lower deserts or high desert. So basically, the urban area of the counties I live next to is where I operate. And that's my business model, that I want to be the go-to guy, the go-to company of any drone work that happens in the Inland Empire. That's my business model. Okay? So I don't go, several hours away for little money. It's not working. That's why I talk about maybe when I retire and I start want to accept agricultural work, I know I need to go spend the night up in Bakersfield, Merced area, or whatever else in the Central Valley of California and do that work where I can stay there for a day, go back to my hotel room, drive home the next day, make my money and come back home. Hey, how we doing, Lawrence? Appreciate you coming in. I thought I saw my man up there. There he is. I fixed it. I fixed stuff. Yeah, appreciate that. But like I say, I know some of you guys live in areas where 2 hour drive puts you in 2 or 3 different states. And you always got to ask yourself, and I always tell people, I said, know what the market is for your area. Okay? If your area is in a high demand of I call residential real estate, that might be the market you got to work in. It's a tough market, very busy market. And I'll tell you right now, you're going to need at least anywhere between 5 to 10 agents feeding you listings to keep you busy enough to make a little money. Okay? If you're in an area that's fortunate enough to have a housing boom or even type of commercial building boom like I have here in Southern California, we've been on a housing boom and commercial tilt-up boom for over a decade, going on 15 years. We've been building stuff like crazy out here. And that's why the demand is so high, and that's why I don't have to travel to try to get jobs. I can be a little more selective. Because I know there's going to be more work. Because I did my research before I got into this. I know solar was coming down because I was already an inspector, so I knew the law was going to change as far as the requirements of solar panels on houses. So once you hit a certain number of houses, I believe it's somewhere around 15% of the total housing that you're building, you have to start putting up solar panels on the houses. Well, that's work. That's work for drone operators. Okay? Like I say, a lot of insurance companies, for roofing companies and other type of people who deal with roofing material, stuff like that, their insurance doesn't want to cover their people getting on roofs to inspect. And a lot of other cities and other municipalities are the same way. They're not allowing their inspectors to get on roofs any longer because of the potential liability issues if someone falls. And I know a guy who fell off a roof. He's the main inspector of a small town up in Central Valley, California. He started with us here, San Bernardino, and nearly killed him. And right after he was matter of fact, while he was still in the hospital, he called me and asked me about drones because he knew I was into drones before he left. And he says, tell me all I can so I can convince my city council to get us a drone program because I'm not going back on the roof again. So, Dan, you're not going to get me there, partner. I appreciate it. So that's what I'm saying. As the industries evolve, the safety aspect of using drones is becoming more of a standard. So you got to ask yourself, what qualifications are you bringing to the table to make you the drone operator that they need to hire? And that's the whole point of what I'm covering right now, is that people talk about, these guys and those guys, they don't send me no work. And I asked them, I said, what are you bringing to the table? What makes you the guy they want to send out a job to over somebody else? Because all these other little, I call them drone broker programs, ZiteFew and Fly Guys and Drone Up and whoever else is still out there operating. That's what they do. They'll feed you a small job, see how you do, and as you do better work for them, they'll send you better jobs. But like I said, you got to be able to be in a market and also bring qualifications that make you the top pick. You know, a lot of guys always talking about what do I need? Everybody said, well, get your Part 107. I said, Part 107 is the basic. It's just the basic. Just like we go out and get a driver's license. It's a basic. You want to be a commercial operator? You guys start taking the commercial operator test and all the other extra tests for air brakes and for tank endorsements and hazmat endorsements and things of that nature to make you more qualified for the higher paying work. You know, just like me when I was a heavy equipment operator, the more equipment you know how to work, because you've been trained on the front loader, the dozer, the backhoe, excavator, all that kind of good stuff. The more stuff you know how to run, the more work you get to do, because you're versatile, and that's where everybody's going to be. You got to be versatile. You can't be a one-trick pony. And that's for the most part right there. So I don't want to step on Paul's time. We're almost out of time. So that's my little tidbit from here. You know, like I say, keep yourself informed on what's going on, because it is affecting you directly. It is not just affecting somebody else or another group of flyers, anything else. It is affecting you directly. Either when doing a purchase or even after the fact, you need to know what's going on. If you're a person who wants to fly at AMA fields, you need to know what fields are available, because now I hear they have certain fields that you can fly to 700 feet. Don't know where they're at, so you need to go to AMA website, find out. Where are these fields at that you can fly 700 feet and change? So I know. And then you got to ask the question when dealing with AMA people, do they allow drones? That's always the kicker. Do they allow drones to fly at their fields? Which is, like I say, you see me smiling now because I think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. We're all in the same classified category on the FAA, but they want to play snobbery. So, as I always say, this is Dre with Cover One Drones. Hang on, enjoy the ride, and please subscribe. I'll see you guys next month. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.